Hey, what's up, family? This is part 3 of how I got into music. I'm gonna try it again. Let me know if you have a problem hearing me. Part 3, how I got into music. So where I last left off in part 2 was the starting of my company, Fruition Music Incorporated. I started the company in 2006, and I'll tell a little bit about the background of how it got started. I went to Sheffield Institute for the Recording Arts in Phoenix, Maryland, and I got my audio engineering certification there. And then I went to, I studied Berklee Music Online, which is Berklee College's online program, and I got my production certification from there, production and another engineering certification. Excuse me. So it's 2006. You know, I've got my own equipment. I'm used to being in the studio as far as in other places, but I'm starting my own company, and I'm trying to figure out what direction I want to go in. Hey, all right, sounds good. We're all clear, all ready to go. So I'm trying to figure out what direction I go in. You know, I've got the hip hop background. I've taught myself how to read music. I've gone to school for some classical. And then at this point, 2002, I got into gospel. And then 2006 is where I started the company. I know that I don't really want to be just a freelance producer. I'm interested in putting together my own music. And I'm also interested in putting together tracks. And so I started a gospel track company at that time. And I'll, right here, before I go further, if you guys have never heard the stuff that I've done or that my company has done on that side of things, because I don't do much gospel music anymore, I'm in a, going a different direction musically, but all the material is still out there and the company's still running and going. Check out, go on YouTube and type in Fruition Music Performance Tracks. Type in Fruition Music Performance Tracks. And then also, if you're interested in the gospel jazz music, the albums that I release, you can go to fruitioncommunitymusic.com, and you'll see my profile, and you'll see a couple albums under my profile. That's fruitioncommunitymusic.com. So I started the gospel track company. My goal is to provide instrumental tracks for vocalists and other kind of groups and singers that don't have musicians. And I wanted it to be a worldwide business, and that's what it turned into, a worldwide business. I'm going to do a video not too long after this. I got to finish explaining the rest of my story all the way up to date, so it's going to be probably another at least 2 parts. But the next thing, thank you so much. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to have a video that's called How I Created a 6-Figure Business, because I happen to be a fortunate person who can say that it's been a part of my history now that I have a business that crossed 6 figures about 4 years ago. So that's going to be a future video. Can't wait to do that. But with that being said, I start this company, and I start with some clients in Baltimore and surrounding areas as far as doing tracks. And I'm basically, my goal is that there are tracks that are already out there, but my goal was to bring the soulful feel to it that really felt like a live band, and to do it myself. And so that's what I did. I studied all the major instruments, bass, guitar, piano, and drums. And I studied them well enough to be able to understand what it's like thinking from that perspective. I went back to the keyboard, and then I emulated everything on the keyboard. So when you go to the YouTube channel, all the instruments that you're hearing in the tracks are actually all instruments triggered from the keyboard. And I have the majority there, and I have a couple other producers who have helped me as well. But you'll hear you'll hear everything. So that gets going, and things are going well. I'm having a lot of fun. I'm doing tracks for $50 a track at this point. And then at some point, I had a catalog of maybe 150 or so tracks. And I decided that I wanted to start my own company, my own performance track company, and that's what I did. The reason why I'm telling this story, because I think that there's some information that could help someone, as well as I want to tell all of the fans, followers, and supporters about like how I got here, who I am, more about me, so you can know who I am and know more about my history. So I started a store, and I'm selling my own tracks. And I decided to do something that was taking a risk, but I knew that in business you got to take risks. You just try to take the smartest risk possible. And the risk that I took is what led to a 6-figure year business. So I started my own company. I'm in my own store, and I'm selling tracks for like $25 a track in the store. Now, that even still is underpriced because of the amount of time that it takes to make a track. You know, for you guys that are producers, you know how much it takes. But you got to start somewhere, and I know that most of the people that would be buying the tracks will be people that couldn't afford, you know, $500, $600, $700 for a track. These might be people that are just singing as a hobby. So I wanted to make it accessible, you know, and I knew that I could build off of that and create a successful business. So I did that, but at some point, digital started coming around as far as iTunes and Amazon, and these different distributors started coming around, and you know, the music was being offered for 99 cents. Now, I wanted the music to be everywhere, so I wanted to be on my website as well as in those stores. The problem was, to be in those stores, you could only have a 99-cent song in those stores. So I'm looking at the model, and I say, okay, here's my website. I'm just getting started. There are not that many people that know about me. I'm getting a few sales. Over here, this is where the new market is, but everything is 99 cents. So I thought to myself, I said, well, this was the comparison I made in my mind, which led to my choice. I said, I can have my own store that's out in the country on some back roads where a few people kind of stop by, and I get higher individual price sales. But it's only a few people that know about it and that kind of thing. Or I can take my store and put it right in the midst of a mall where it's high traffic, and even though nobody is there to see about me or to, you know, they don't even know that I'm there, but I'm in the midst of way more traffic. Now, of course, the give and take of it was that in order to do that, I had to take my track prices, and they had to go from $25 or whatever price that I felt was, you know, the tracks were worth, down to everything being 99 cents. But I'm thinking to myself, in the long run though, this is the smartest move. And so that's what I did. And you know, I'll get into the full story, but it was amazing because it went from nothing to starting to gain traction, a couple $100, you know, here and there a month. And before you know it, every year for the next 4 years, the income was exactly doubling. And I mean, from like 10,000 to 29,000 to 45, you know, to 80, you know, to over 100. And so it really went viral. And the thing is that I'm so grateful for is, you know, there'll be times when I'll be looking at the reports, and there'll be places around the world I couldn't even pronounce, and it would be the highest selling tracks in those companies, and I mean those countries. I mean, and it was an absolute amazing experience. I mean, but it all came from perseverance. It all came from just really sitting down, studying the market, and it also came from taking a risk and just really going for it. You know, if you really, really want something, you gotta, of course, you know, put in the work and do the research. You know, what I realized in like 2005 and 6 was that a lot of the musicians around me didn't have websites. And this was when it was fairly new. Like, I was using Yahoo Web Builder for my first website, and I'm smiling about it because, man, it was, I mean, it's nothing compared to what you can do free today on like Wix.com or Weebly. But the thing was, I had a website, and that took the level of professionalism as far as how the customers and clients saw the company to another level. Quick sidebar, just as far as a reference, I read a book for musicians and producers. I read a book that was called How to Run Your Own Record Label, and it was written by a woman who, I forgot her name, but she gave some really, really great advice for taking your business and going from being mediocre to being seen as a professional. And a lot of it had to do with just language, you know, speaking we instead of I, speaking us, you know, instead of my, to customers and clients, and, you know, following through. It was at one point in time I was I was playing every single position in the company. So if I told you I was going to call you, somebody was going to call you back, it was me that was calling you back, you know. But the point is, though, I saw the momentum and everything was going very well. And I just kept hammering at it. The next thing that I want to speak on is consistency. Because to be honest, that really is the name of the game. You know, when I do the full how I created a six-figure year business, is going to be built around consistency. Consistency gives people something to look forward to, and you become a staple. You know, once you become a staple, you become a household name, and people start looking forward to the information or the products or whatever. So I say that to you to say everybody can apply this principle. Whatever you're doing, focus most on consistency. And to be honest, there'll be times when, in order to be consistent, like, you kind of have to go to some lengths just to be consistent. But I promise you, whatever you sacrifice, whatever you do, even if what you put out or what you create or what you deliver is not the grandest version of what you would like to, consistency, though, a lot of times makes up for it, because the thing is, consistency speaks volumes. It shows the direction you're going. It shows the direction you're trying to go. And most of all, it speaks about dependability. You know, being able to depend on you for whatever that is. And again, this goes past money and careers. I mean, this goes all the way down to speaking. You know, speaking every day, saying hi, saying I love you, you know. Being on Facebook, just shouting out someone. Like, these things create momentum. So that's what I did, and it started in 2007. And simultaneously, I was also a gospel jazz artist. I put together a band, and I made one declaration. Because I had already been in a group and I knew what it was like to basically be a starving artist, I really didn't want to put together a band, to be honest. And I didn't want to go the route of just begging for people to listen to the music and begging for them to invest in it. I just didn't want to walk that route. So what I thought about, and it's funny because a lot of things that I've done have just been mindset. They've just been small little nuanced mindset things, not even anything really heavily different from anything anyone else would do. But I thought about it and I said, you know what? Since I don't want to be a starving artist, and I don't want the band to be a starving artist band, we're going to be service providers. We're going to be service providers, and the goal is to provide services. And the only thing we have to do is show people why they need our service. Show people why you want Fruition to do it for you, you know? And that mindset made it be where the first evolution of Fruition was from, I would say, about 2007 or 8, no, not 7, 2008, I'll say, to about 2011, so 3 years. And we did one event that was free, and it wasn't even that we were against doing free, but we didn't have to do free because we were being called as service providers, you know. And as service providers, what did we get a chance to do? The same thing that any other band would do, but I provided consultation services. I put together a wedding services size to the company where not only was I providing wedding services as a musician, but I was also providing wedding services as a producer, and people would come to my home, do consultations. I would produce the music for their wedding, and even if I was by myself, I mean, it would sound, you would have, you know, 20 and 30 instruments, and it would be very orchestrated, and people really appreciated that because I was going the extra mile. Plus, just doing a consultation service. Like, sometimes it's just real small things that change everything for you. Nobody else was doing consultation services. Nobody else had contracts, you know. Nobody else had like breakdowns of how many consultations and meetings you get, and the rehearsals and the times and all these things. So people took me as a professional immediately and took the company as professional. The other thing I did, which turned out to be a great thing, is when I would finish with clients, as far as planning the music, and give them that one-on-one personal, because that's what it's about. It's about building relationships. Like, let's make it clear. Everything I was doing was about really connecting with people one-on-one and going past just, I'm just going to show up for you and play some songs and get my money and be out. Like, it was more about developing long, and pretty much everyone that I've done a service for and that the company has done a service for, like, we still have a relationship of some sort to this day. And I believe it was really because of that. So that's just kind of a sidebar to say, like, put in the time for relationships, do small things, because they go a long way. But with that being said, I did one other thing that I was sitting and brainstorming on and thought about one day. Every time a client would leave my house after finishing the meeting, I would, because again, building a relationship, I would ask them how everything else was going. Now, these were all people, maybe with the exception of 2 people, and I was doing like 80 weddings a year. Like, it was crazy. The company was doing 80 weddings a year. It was ridiculous. But out of all these people, there's maybe 2 that I actually knew. Everyone else, the goal during that time was to really become connected to them, show them that I really actually care. And so I would ask how everything else was going, you know, how the rest of the planning was going and that kind of thing. And that softened people up, allowed them to open up. And I would get the same responses. Those responses would be, well, and it was always something. And I know what it's like, firsthand experience. You know, it's like, well, now that this part is taken care of, I mean, this is good, we're happy, but we still don't know what we're gonna do for photography. The videographer didn't call us back, and we just don't know what we're gonna do. DJ, we just, you know, so at some point I said, you know what? I'm gonna create a one-stop shop. So you'll be able to come to Fruition and get everything. You know, you'll be able to get DJ services, musician services, consultation services, photography services, videography services. The only thing I didn't get to was catering. Like, you were gonna get everything, you know, even all the way down to planners and that kind of thing. I always try to see the bigger picture. You know, I never stay on one aspect, just the money, you know, right then and there, just trying to get this job and all that. Now, I think about long-term relationships. I think about community, building culture, and I think about how can you be of service all the way around, you know, from the bigger picture. So that's what I created. And I had never seen anything like that, but it was so cool. It was so cool. I mean, we were getting, you know, $6,000 and $7,000 packages. And the thing was, all it took was just trying my best to service the people and just coming up with clever ideas on how to do so, you know. So, hey, thanks so much. Thanks so much for hanging out, guys. And please share the video. All this is inspiration for someone else to say, hey, here's how I did it and you can do it too. So at some point, you know, Fruition Music Incorporated as a company was doing at least 80 weddings a year. And I would bring the PA system, you know, I would go at length. Now, I'm not doing as much of that kind of work now, but that's because things have shifted. Now I'm doing other things for the community. And that's still going on in other capacities within the company. So, yeah, that was 2007 up until about 2011. I'm a gospel jazz artist. We're traveling around Baltimore, making a lot of relationships with people, doing a lot of events, leaving a lot of really good impressions, and actually doing something that not too many other people are doing around that time. I've got the business set up, and I wasn't incorporated then. I'll do a video about that, especially for people who are wondering like about incorporating and what that's like. That works in your best benefit, I'll tell you that. But yeah, you know, this was just like, okay, let's make this thing right. Let's help people, you know, let's do it right, and let's do it in a way that's beyond what you would normally encounter from a musician or from a musical, you know, team or company. And so things went really well, you know, in that regard. If you check out the YouTube channel, with, again, it's Fruition Music Performance Tracks on YouTube. Here's consistency. There's over 1,800 videos on the channel, and that was because at some point every week. New products had to be released every week. You know, I set it up where every Monday it was a new project started. By Saturday, a new album was released every Saturday for the period of 3 years. If you type in Fruition Music on iTunes, you'll see at least, we've changed the catalog around a couple times, but you'll see at least like 150 albums. You know, it's like something like 2,300 songs or something like that last time I checked from the company. I mean, it's, yeah. So consistency, and what that did was build a channel that currently now has over 40,000 subscribers, and a lot has happened from that. In fact, I also started two radio stations, 2 online radio stations, and that was another thing that put the music around the world. I'm just always trying to just think, like, it's not competition. I'm just trying to think, how can we more so expand this? How can we take this to the next level and expand this and cover more markets, you know, cover more of the technology that's being used in today's times? You know, what's missing? What's the void? If this is being delivered already by other companies, what's the void? What's the part that people are missing just because it's hard to do, or because you have to think past being a musician to do? Like, you that's another thing too. And you know, I'll do again, this is the beginning of a long series of vlogs, because we got a lot to talk about. And one of those things is, as musicians, sometimes we think too much like musicians and not enough like businessmen and businesswomen. And in addition to that, especially now with where I am and with what's most important to me as far as humanitarianism, a lot of times we think too much like musicians and not enough like carers or lovers or people that just care about bettering other people's lives as friends and as family and as brothers and as sisters, you know, and that kind of thing. Because that's what matters most. You know, at the end of this whole journey, I just want the Cosmic Soul journey, that is. Shout out to everybody that checked out the cartoons video. I'm actually getting ready to re-upload that video, because those microphones, I'm sorry to diverge, but I just let it go. Those microphones you guys saw in the video, those were really recording audio. That was not just karaoke. Like, we literally did a whole studio session driving in the car. So Cartoons episode 1, thank y'all for checking that out. And I'm gonna re-upload with better audio so that you guys can hear it like plow, headphone style, right in your ear on your way, Cosmic Soul Journey. And that song will be released this week as a single to purchase. And we're taking off from here. And so the goal is to be able to give back. The goal is to be able to give back. So at some point, you know, we have to think differently. And the money came easily. The thing was, how can I really be of service to people? How can I actually better people's days, their lives, and that kind of thing? And in doing that, like, everything pans itself out the way that it needs to. Just be an asset. Just really focus on being an asset. I say that clearly. Asset. Focus clearly on being an asset. So anyway, 2006 to 2011, there's a lot more I need to talk about in that, but I'll pretty much wind it down here and just pause, come back for the next one. Please drop your questions, drop your comments, drop your suggestions. If I could do this better, if there's something I'm not talking about that you want to know, drop it all. I answer all questions. I respond to all comments, every last one of them. Everybody is important to me. So please share the video and join me in the next one, part 4. And we'll start talking about how we got to this place now, the Fruition Experience. We'll talk about New Thought Jazz, which was a genre of music that I created in 2012, and that whole movement. And yeah, we'll keep taking the journey together. Much love, y'all. Peace, and I'll talk to y'all probably tomorrow. All right.